Welcome in, everyone. I am the 86. We have these two people here. One's named
Ben.
Ben, the other's named,
Kayla!
and we are One Resource Floating, the place where you get
We're
all
not
your
even going
fab
to
needs except you
talk
midnight.
about the voice that has a face
Voice.
now.
Wait, the voice has the face. It's
The
hard
voice
to.
has a face! Oh, that's terrifying on
he's,
camera.
he's taken
That's
over a body. Kayla
Jesus.
has done the exorcisms. She has got him out of her
They
house, but now he
did
came
work.
back in a physical
Yeah.
form. And
So, yeah, I actually...
today, we are going to talk about lightning bolts because
Yeah.
they be bolting. All
They
over the
be
place.
going...
That's bad.
That's bad. Okay.
Boo.
Yeah, that was bad, and you can feel bad.
Today we're going to talk about Idris Elba. Sexy.
Yes.
Pretty
Literally
much.
who it is.
If there was anybody other than Idris Elba, I'm at a loss.
So Bolton is someone that none of us here play. Just kidding. I think there's one person here that loves Bolton.
There's actually two people here that played it.
Oh, there's two people. Ah, I see.
Yeah, they play different Bolton.
That is true.
I knew one person that I think the term I heard before was stand Bolton in CC. I don't know if that's the right term or not. I don't know. I'm trying to be hip with the
Are you
lingo.
trying to be
You're trying to
hip?
hip for the kids.
My vocabulary is on fleek.
Oh my god.
I'm
Just
pretty
give me
sure
an
that's
aneurysm.
actually like way out of rotation.
Okay, so
I don't
Bolton.
even know.
We're gonna talk about. We'll dive right into Bolton.
Yeah, get away from that.
Yeah. So we got two people here that play Bolton. Bolton is. Do you have any lore on Bolton? Can you tell us anything about Bolton?
He is just from. I actually don't know much lore about Bolton. I just know that he is from Solana. His mentor was Minerva when she was still in the guard that protected Solana. Before she like retired and then became a mentor or at least like a big figure in Dorinthia's life. But actually from the new there's the new lore, I can't remember what it's called, it's something Hill. They talked more about Dorinthia and her fight against the
Demonastery.
Thank you. I always have trouble
Is
saying
it
that
the one where
word.
she goes Super Saiyan?
Yeah, she went Super Saiyan, but in the end, she sits with Bolton.
So yeah, in the lore, Boltyn
So-
is the acting commander
Yeah.
of the last garrison of actually trained troops.
Yeah.
In Solana.
So I don't know, like, ages between Dorinthia and Bolton. It's that really kind of messed it up. Because I thought Dorinthia was probably much younger than Bolton, which she might still be much younger.
Yeah, if I had to peg a number, I'd say late 20s for Dory and like early 40s for adult Boltyn.
Early to mid 40s, yeah.
Sir
So
Bolton, thank
He
you very
is
much.
great.
Bolton.
Sir
He has
Bolton.
prestige.
Sir Bolton, yeah, he has been knighted.
Do you think I care about night?
Do
Dude.
you think he fears the night? That's actually a reference because he's in the DC universe. He meets Batman.
Yes.
Mm.
But back onto it. So at the point which makes me think that Dorinthia is still going to get some new form, considering she literally went Super Saiyan and her hair glowed the light of 1,000 suns and into my heart. But he is at that time in the lore, he was the last commanding officer.
And
And if you
But
look
I
at,
don't know much about his upbringing.
if you look at a lot of his card art and some of the flavor text that exists on some of those cards, it heavily implies that Sir Boltyn was knighted by skill, not by bloodline.
Yep.
And he has this kind of gruff and do the job, I don't care who you are mentality. Again, just looking into some of his card art, like via the Vanguard, very specifically, he's holding his sword Raiden, charging forward with a handful of people behind him, tip of the spear kind of mentality. And his playstyle fits with that mentality of I am here to take charge I am going to sacrifice of myself, typically in the form of taking hits, so that way I can continue to push useful damage turns. Um, Ben plays with the Raiden Boltyn style primarily, so he actually has what I would say is the true Boltyn deck.
Yes,
The other forms like Saber Boltyn or Axis Boltyn are like you could call them his training forms. But if you look at his card art, like Via the Vanguard, Beacon of Hope, or Beacon of Victory, and even Lumina Ascension, like you can see that he is transitioned from just this scrapper fighter into an actual symbol of hope for the people of Solana.
Yeah, I believe that is what Lumina Ascension is meant to be. Is that he is ascending to
Levels of light.
But it's also like he is, like the voice said, just a symbol of hope. And I think that's what Illumina Ascension is supposed to signify, is that he is ascending as a beacon to be something for the people.
Bolton's kind of the first interesting hero because multiple heroes can use multiple different weapons. However, Bolton is probably one of the, in my opinion, the most fluid at using different weapons. So like,
There's diverse builds.
yeah, there's Edge of Autumn is available for ninjas, but are you going to run Edge of Autumn or are you going to run Kadachi? And there are a lot of heroes I think that have the option where they could run like Dorinthia can run Axis. But Bolton really has varying builds, and they're all about the same level of Axes, Centauri Sabers, and Raiden. And there's one.
There is also Dawnblade Boltyn.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, God.
can run Dawnblade. I mean, it really only becomes good on Lumina turns, but he can run every single warrior weapon out there. He has that
utility.
Yes.
I want to see someone win any kind of event ever
mentality.
with Dawnblade Boltyn.
I don't think that's a.
I want to see it happen.
Do you actually want to see that happen?
I'd
I don't.
be impressed.
I don't think it's an actual like viable deck, but it's just the fact that he has it at his disposal. He could, but I don't think anyone ever would.
So
I mean,
You may attack again. 3 Twinning Blades, 3 Warriors Valor. Or which one?
Duskpath Pilgrimage,
You can run
Lumina
9.
Ascension.
3 and up. You can have 15 sources if this can attack twice
That's
a turn.
true.
here, I'm gonna. The Masked Singer alluded to the fact that Ben
what?
plays Raiden Bolton.
Yeah.
Masked Singer. What weapon do you typically play with Bolton?
I started with Axis Boltyn, actually. And now it's even more viable after Everfest.
And I don't play it frequently, but I have a Centauri Sabers Bolton. And I think we can all talk about how those builds differ. So Ben, going down we'll start with you, since you're the main Bolton man here. Can you tell me what's in Raiden Bolton? What's your goal? What are you trying to do? What are the important cards? And let's start with the weapon. So Raiden Duskbane.
Oh yeah, Raiden's really fun. Raiden is a weapon with a 0 cost to attack. The caveat being it has 0 attack unless you've charged that turn. Charging is a specific. Bolton's the only one who can do it. I guess we'll see in the future if any more light warriors have that ability. But as of this moment, charge is a uniquely Bolton mechanic. Whereas you just put, like Prism, you want to put cards in Soul. So what Raiden allows you to do is play a super low cost deck. So it's primarily reds and yellows. Pretty much I only run blues in it for the ice matchup into Oldhim or Lexi, where they might threaten to tax you resources. But so Raiden allows you to play between a mid-range and an aggro game, because you can warriors just block well, and then the low cost of the deck with Bolton's ability to give go again just allows you to have turns with crazy damage. So he's really fun. He's like the type where you bide your time. The moment you have the right cards in hand, you're like, okay, I'm going to swing for 25 and just call it a turn.
So Masked Singer. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do when you play Bolton?
Hate the name, but Axis Boltyn is now more about playing enough into your soul so that way you can facilitate go again multiple ways. You're not going to rely on attack actions only like Kasai and some of the other warrior types that have to have Blade Runners or other things like that. You want pretty much every other turn to charge at least one card, and then on your tempo turns, that's when you're going to maybe get rid of 2 or 3 cards from Soul to push hopefully 17 plus damage. And really, most of those cards are going to pitch or coming out of Soul. You will run a handful of attack actions alongside your weapons. It's not like a true Dorinthia deck where it's just reactions and prep and then you're only using Dawnblade. You will run things like Take Flight. Every Boltyn deck has to run Take Flights. It's hands down the best light warrior card in the game. Costs 1. It allows you to charge. If you charge, that attack gets native go again, so you don't have to use any tricks in your bag to keep that chain going. And then from there, you've already prepped yourself to hopefully give your axe first swing go again through either an attack reaction or Boltyn's ability itself, which is whenever an attack you control is defended by an attack action card, if you have charged this turn, it gains +1. The second half of his ability is any attack that has higher physical attack value than its base, you may banish a card from his soul and give that attack go again. That applies to weapons and attack actions, and that's the real key there. So you can spend resources on prep cards that give your next weapon swing +1 or 2 or 3, that's fine. But a lot of times, if you're threatening fun on hit triggers, they're going to have to defend, and if they defended attack actions, he natively can get go again with cards in his soul. So the Axis is much more mid-range. You're going to be blocking, you're going to be using cards like Soul Shield, you're going to be using maybe some non-warrior defense reactions to really prep and set up. And you will have some turns where you're like, I'm going to block 3 cards from my hand, and then I'm going to swing a hatchet for 2 or 3. So be it. But he has a reliable weapon in the hatchets in that you always can threaten something with 1 resource. And I like that. But his counter is forcing cards out of his hand. If I cannot have 2, ideally 3 cards left in my hand, I'm not happy about my offensive side of the turn. So there are turns that I'm just going to take it on the chin. I might take 13 damage, hopefully not much more than that, and it all comes down to can I math out 17, 18, 22 damage. Because with the Axis Boltyn, you can get 3 or 4 or 5 attacks on combat chain with the right hand.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important to note, we didn't... I don't know what to call you now if you don't want that. You almost look like Moon Knight, except if your eyes were different. By the way, Moon Knight has been amazing. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Now I'm doing Boltyn, his ability. If you charge this turn, attacks you control have +1 while defended with an attack action card. And he has an attack reaction. Banish a card from his soul. Target attack with attack greater than his base. Gains go again.
And neither of those are once per turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They are as many times as is necessary.
Yep.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying yeah.
So I typically play, if I play Boltyn, which isn't often, but I have the Centauri Saber build. So typically, when you have the Centauri Saber, they have the ability, it's Kasai's weapon, that she comes with standard. If it's defended by an attack action card, it gains +1 until end of turn. Boltyn has the ability, if you've charged this turn, attacks you control have +1 while defended by an attack action card. So the Sabers get that ability till end of turn. Boltyn bumps it up just that attack, I believe.
Yes.
It's the individual attack.
So what you want to do is if you want to run Courage of Bladehold, which is your sword attacks are going to cost a resource less, and you're going to bide your time, you're going to charge up your soul, you're going to play energy potions, and when you get your first Lumina Ascension, you're gonna arsenal it. When you get your second Luminous Ascension, you're going to think about getting the combo off. And Luminous Ascension is a great card. It is until end of turn, weapons you control gain +1, and if this hits, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a light card, put it into your hero's soul and gain 1 life. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. If you've charged this turn, you may attack an additional time with each weapon you control. Now you're at a point where if you have 2 Luminous Ascensions, your Centauri Sabers are going to come in for 4 each time, and you can attack an additional time with each of them. So if you play 2 Luminous Ascensions, you're going to come in 3 times for 4 damage each.
Saber. Yep.
So that is 24 damage. And if they block it, then it's going to get +1. If they block at the beginning, it's +1 until end of turn. So they didn't want to do that. So the best thing is to block with equipment or block the last hit or hits. And it really is a nightmare. And I played against a Boltyn doing this, and this is in the very beginning of Starvo, the Starvo meta, and I had him maybe down to like he was going to die the next turn, and he didn't do any damage to me, and he was at like 10, and I was prepared to like come back and do a big attack and end the game. Well, he got off the Luminous Ascensions and did that combo and healed himself back up and brought me down and ended it with a I think the card is Bolting Blade. Nope.
That'll do it.
Nope, that's not it. It was
Giant Thrust.
Celestial Cataclysm, Bolting Blade.
Beacon of Victory.
Oh, Beacon of Victory. That'll do it too.
As an additional cost to play Beacon of Victory, banish X cards from your hero's soul. X can't be 0. Target attack gains +X. If you charge this turn, search your deck for an action card with cost X or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. So you got to think, he just came through with all this damage, and he gets 2 cards in soul per turn, or per swing. He's going to remove one of those to give his attack go again. But he's also, the whole turn, he's just been charging. He's like, oh, I'm not doing any damage, but I'm charging up. And then he comes in, target attack gains pretty much, it was like 15 or something crazy, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like he didn't need to search his deck or anything. It just like ended me right there. And then I made the deck just to see how to play against it, but that was
Saber Boltyn, when he gets the combo off, is a terrifying force of nature.
Yeah.
However, now though, with so much interruption and disruption, literally 1 block from Stalagmite, and that turn just got a lot more tenuous.
Yeah.
And create a Frostbite under target hero. So ice is really bad against that Boltyn.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you see Sabers, if you're running anything ice disruption, you're like, okay, cool. As soon as I see a card go on their arsenal, I'm just going to wait. And then I'm going to do the thing that gives them their Frostbite in the middle of their turn. And just hope that they cry. Because they should.
Yep.
He had that turn. He had a lot of energy potions out, so he wasn't probably too worried about any disruption.
Actually, that energy potions also really help if you want those setups, but
you have to get them when you're setting up and not when you're doing your Lumina.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse as the player, but better as the opponent. I was just watching them be like, oh, that's a sink below. That doesn't help. Oh, that's energy potion. That's awful.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Those are going to the bottom of your deck. You're not getting any life. You're not getting any soul charge. What a sad, sad moment.
Enough by that point. So you can see all of these things kind of come in with Boltyn and make him pretty adaptable, right? Is that the word I would use?
So depending on your,
Yeah.
like I say, because Saber Boltyn is definitely a combo deck. Like, you're looking for the combo pieces to win you the game, and you're buying your time until you're charged and ready, and then you're just either going to win or you're going to gain so much tempo that it's hard for your opponent to come back.
Right, because there's nothing worse than draining 20 health and gaining 24.
Yeah.
Because that's a 44 health swing. That's more than you start the game with. So
Pretty good.
They basically have to beat you twice now.
But then it's like Raiden Boltyn plays more aggro to mid range, where you can bide your time, wait for your resources to align, then just push damage like every 3 turns or so. So you just block out till you're ready, and then bam, threatening
And
so much damage.
And then Axes is kind of halfway between that. There's certain turns that you just there are combos that you want with Axes. Well, like absolutely there are. There's no point denying it. But there's also those turns that you're like, oh, I can push 11 damage with 2 cards. All right, I'll block, and then I'll use the 1 card in Arsenal and the 1 card in my hand, and cool, I'm gonna do 11 damage. It's great.
Talking about Axe Boltyn reminds me that Spill Blood exists, and I haven't heard anyone talk about Spill Blood in forever.
It only exists for I think
Yep.
Boltyn and maybe Warrior and Axe.
Yeah, I had
Axe
an
Story's
Story.
been getting some play. With Hit and Run and Blade Runner, Axe Story's been getting some play.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
definitely. And Cash In with Spoils of War. And yeah, Spill Blood, Spoils of War is just nasty.
Yeah.
Like, those are cards that you're going to include in Axis Boltons. And then Spill Blood, you'll probably not include, obviously, because it only works on Axis. But Spoils of War, you probably include in Sabers.
Yep.
Probably not Raiden, just because cool. Like, you're 1 Raiden swing.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would just be doing like. I mean, obviously, you could do something along the lines of if you didn't want to banish something from Soul. So if like you take flight into Spoils of War into Raiden, so that you didn't have to use the charge to banish and give go again, and then come in with something at the end. But then that's just kind of a tough rough around. There's really no reason to use it for Raiden.
I mean, yeah, you just try to get the value out of Bolton's ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boltyn is definitely a hero that, like, when he plays his game, when he plays with his hero ability at the center of it, it's good. It's tough
Yeah.
to keep up with.
Yeah, he is solid, and the fact that he has the abundance of warrior equipment,
The fridge.
the fridge of warriors, and even now where Valiant Dynamo did not really have a place before Everfest, and with Everfest bringing Blade Runner and Outland Skirmish, Valiant Dynamo now is just literally gold on your feet. You're wearing your golden boots, and you're like, I'm doing so much damage, and I will always block at least 1 on my turn.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at equipment and, like, think about value that it brings, right? Like, there's equipment that has utility. You know, like Snapdragon Scaler is a perfect example. It's one of the most versatile, useful leg equipments in the game. But it has a 1 and done. Valiant Dynamo, if you attack with a weapon twice on your turn, doesn't matter if it hits, just if you swing.
You just have to activate a second swing.
You can remove the Battle Worn token off the leg equipment. So on a deck that's designed to consistently swing twice, you're not going to get 3 or 4 health out of a piece of equipment, or 6 even. You might get 7+ health from 1 card. And that's unheard of. I mean, Carrion Husk in the Shadow equipment in Monarch, we'll talk more about later, it was like the epitome of the fridge. It blocked 6. Yes, it started hurting you after you used it, but it blocked 6.
Chain.
So, equipment that has no downside other than it takes the spot from other things, that gives you 5 to 9 health on average in a CC match, that's bananas. That's huge value.
Yeah. And I think it just wasn't very viable, because it's like, with Boltyn, it was like, it's kind of for those Lumina turns, but those are not as constant as I'm going to Hatchet, Blade Runner, Hatchet, or I'm going to take flight, Hatchet, give it a buff so I can banish and attack with another Hatchet. It is so useful right now for just anything, like where they try and just come in for that 1 damage. You're like, I don't want to subject a card to this. And I don't want to use equipment that blocks 2 on a block 1, because maybe I could use it for later for a more crucial moment. Valiant Dynamo is just, I'm going to be funny, it's dynamic.
It's also that I wonder if they have something to push this one over the top.
Yeah.
You just automatically include it in your block scheme.
Yeah.
Like, if they're pushing 6 damage, you're like, what if they have a lunging press? Or what if they have, the breaking scales that they've not blocked?
It also just tells ninjas, like, oh, Kodachi for 1, okay. Oh, the second Kodachi for 1? No, not in my house.
Yeah, every turn.
Like, I'll take that first Kodachi, sure, but that second one, you're not going to see that hit me, unless you have the Razor.
Warriors block well, I think was the summary there.
Yeah.
Love Warriors.
Well, because then we've already talked about the other equipments already, but like Courage of Blade Hold, it blocks 2.
Yeah.
You have Temper, so you really, if you had to, you could block a 3rd out
Yeah.
of it. But then you've got Brave Force Bracers, blocks 3 total.
3 total, yeah, blocks
Battle
2,
worn.
so you can use it for 2 and then 1.
Yeah, and then it's still Battle Worn, so you can still use the effect.
Yeah.
And then Arcanite Skullcap, and if not Skullcap, Helm of the Keen Eye.
I think Helm is crazy. Helm is every time I've played the voice and I've used Helm, I have gotten the most nutso gutso banishes off Helm.
It's
It is-
very risky.
Don't think it works as well with Boltyn because you're not running
Yeah.
as many attack reactions because he has the attack reaction. He is the attack reaction that you're going to use most of.
No, but
Actually, it doesn't need to be. As a Helm of Sharp Eye, I actually run it just because I like it, because if you hit an action, you can still play it. So, like,
yeah, if you have some form of go again and it's an action or an attack action, or even just an attack reaction on top of all of it, it's like, I'm gonna use this.
And with
Is it
Boltyn, you do have a lot of stuff that buffs, so getting that weapon, I mean, Raiden is a joke. Literally, you charge and then Helm is activated with Raiden.
Yeah.
yep.
It's-
And then if you
Super
banish,
easy.
you're like, I banished a take flight. I could play another take flight.
as long as you got the one resource. And
Yeah.
the cool thing about the keyword charge, every instance of charge, except for some of the like Lumina or Beacon or other things that specifically on the card interact with charging, once you've charged a turn, it turns on every charge effect from every
Yeah,
card.
that's-
So you can charge a take flight and then Bolt of Courage after that. And the charge effect, you don't have to charge a second card. That one that you use for take flight is activating the charge effect of Bolt of Courage. So it's a pretty powerful keyword mechanic because you're not committing, you're not discarding a card every time you do it like a brute. You're just putting one card into soul. Yes, it's, you're basically playing with a 3-card hand, which stinks, but the power of it is definitely a good trade-off with most turns.
And some of the charge attacks like come in, like there's Valiant Thrust, which I think is the red
Plus-
at base 3 or base 4.
Base 4 is for red.
Yeah.
Or
And
It's
then
2,
the
3.
charge gives it +3, makes it what is it?
7.
7 for 1.
Yeah.
7 for
one.
1.
Like, who do you think you are, Runeblade? You can't do that. Like,
Yeah,
That is
literally,
literally the, like, you see, like, sort of like they'll float a resource, like they'll pitch a yellow, float a resource,
charge.
and you're like, yeah, this is, like, what are they going to do with the one resource? And it's like Valiant for 7, you're like, that's so gross. Like, that
my
actually.
favorite line, my favorite, like, non-majestic powered line is literally just take flight, charge, Raiden, give it go again, end with a Valiant Thrust. That's, what, 14 damage for a yellow pitch and a card from Soul?
It's disgusting. I hate Valiant Thrust.
It's
But
so
it's like-
good.
So, oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And they're like,
you have the reaction in hand. If you charge this turn, give it +4 again.
it's literally inverse Shrill Skull form. I say inverse because I think is it 3 base and gets +4? No. Is it the
Doesn't-
same?
does
Hold on,
Shrill
let's look
cost
it up.
1 or 2?
Shrill
Draw
costs
costs 2.
Yeah, Shrill costs 2, so it's not even fair.
I
and
mean,
it 5, 6, or 7 because it comes in for 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah.
Runeblades can pay it.
It's a very Runeblade card, Shrill, but Valiant is a very Boltyn card. Like, if Take Flight is the must include in all Boltyn decks,
But
Valiant
2
Thrust is probably the
Just
least
2
run the
reds.
reds.
Yeah, just 2 reds.
And, like, even the blues aren't bad because you can, if you've charged, you can use the reaction to get it go again.
Still comes in for 5.
So it still comes in for 5 and allows you to do wacky stuff on the back end if you have the soul for it.
Yep.
So,
In Raiden Boltyn, where you have a lower cost, I play the reds and yellows without question.
Yep.
It's so good.
And
I
it
would consider blues and sideboard for those ice matchups and taking maybe the yellows out. But
I mean, the blues I do run are just like little tech cards that help me charge. Like I run the blue Take Flights, blue Express Lightnings, and blue Bolt of Courage.
I was like, Bolt of Courage is the draw and hit, which is nice because it forces cards out of hand. Even if it's your last attack, they're like, I don't want them to draw. No.
I said they're really only in the deck just to try to get around ice. If I have to attack with them, it's kind of feels bad, but it happens.
It does.
That being said, I've never been able to beat Oldham with Boltyn, so
There are some bad matchups with Boltyn.
I mean, channel like against any warrior is just like
it shuts it down.
yeah,
I'm just not gonna. It's like I will do one thing and then I will arsenal and pass. Hopefully, you get rid of channel like, oh, you have a 4-more turn. Cool. I'm gonna do one thing, or like maybe keep the stuff in hand and pass. Hope channel like goes away.
Yeah, it can be rough.
So
It's a-
I think another
there's
thing
no-
to note too, that Boltyn seems to me a lot better in constructed
Well,
than
in Blitz, combo Boltyn is terrible. In Blitz you run combo Boltyn because he has the potential to just rip end
Once
the
she gets
game.
rid of the weapon roll.
Whereas Raiden Boltyn is still really good, but if you have to defend for too long, then you're just kind of way too far behind.
Well, and you also run out of tricks in your bag with Raiden Bolt.
Raiden Bolton, you will eventually run out of like the
Yeah.
2 to 3 to 4 swings a turn to more of a I'm gonna try and charge and then maybe a Raiden. So you're going from like 15 damage turns to like 7.
That is a downfall of Boltyn, is he's a very card-intensive hero.
Yeah.
You will run out of cards quicker than a lot.
Yes.
Every turn you are, in theory, a good turn involves charging, right? So you're going to immediately
Yeah,
take
he
2
will.
cards from
Yeah,
it,
he is running out of cards also very quickly.
plus pitching. So you do rely on your weapon as Bolt.
Yeah.
Because 3 cards to do one thing, that's not viable for a lot of turns. So there are going to be turns where you're just like, I'm going to swing.
I mean, it's pretty similar to Dash's boost mechanic in that he is banishing a card. It's just not from the top of his deck, but he has to put it into his soul, which is not in the deck area. But
It's just dash with extra steps.
I'm Dash, but complicated.
And with on-hit effects, that's important.
He does
has
have
a
some
lot of
really good
on-hit
on-hit.
effects. He
Not quite
does.
ninja level effects, but
Yeah, not
still-
like Ninja or Runeblade on hit effects.
Well, Runeblade really is just you make rune chance when you hit. There's a few others, but the majority of on
Depending on circumstances, rune chants mean a lot.
Oh, they do. But you can see what's coming with a rune blade. You're like, okay, if they hit, they're gonna make a rune chant.
Yeah.
Whereas like ninja and sometimes these warrior cards, like you don't know what's gonna happen if it hits.
Yeah.
So going in with the card intensive thing, I think there's 2 big things to note with Boltyn is we do have those like take flights. The one we mentioned before, what's the lightning one?
Oh my gosh.
Express lightning, like engulfing light, like bolt of courage. All those are like small little pieces of damage, but they're gonna let you charge and kind of go through. But
It will set you up for the big turn.
Mhm. Boltyn can also have some really big swings. We talked about Violent Thrust a little bit earlier.
Celestial.
I was gonna say we haven't even mentioned Celestial Cataclysm, which is so good for him.
And even
Mhm.
we didn't mention it last week with Prism either.
It's more for the Prism Mirror.
Yeah, because I mean, Celestial Cataclysm was good when people were trying to play more heavy aura face, where it's like I'm gonna get some cards into soul from like on hit effects, but I'm doing more big hits of damage instead of the increments of 1.
Right. Now
So-
getting 3 spectral shields and being able to attack with them pretty much every turn. After 2 turns, you've done 6 damage with those instances individual, which is actually worse than 1 attack for 7.
Yeah.
So there is this valuation method with Prism where it's just not as good. But in a Prism Mirror, it's a great copper.
Yeah, it's like it's her best pop.
mechanic. So
Because it's also, I mean, if you don't really have the resources, it also costs
0.
0.
Zero.
That's the thing, is that it naturally costs 0. You just have to have 3 cards in soul. So if you're a Prism and you're kind of in the bind of, I should block some of this damage, they got some on hit effects, but I have 3 cards in soul and a Celestial Cataclysm in hand, I'll block with everything from my hand and I can attack for essentially 7 for 0.
Yeah. The
So
only thing that comes close to that is E-Strike, and that requires a second card to
that requires a second card, and even then it's like
Oh yeah, it's
That's a card in hand as compared with a card in soul, which you could build up just over time. You don't need it
or literally just
immediately.
play a soul food and then you're there.
Yeah, soul food, the card everyone ignores.
Just do not play soul food against the wizard. Oh Lord mercy, don't make that mistake like I did.
Did you soul food and then they were
Turn
like,
0 soul food.
cool, I'm gonna do 25 damage. Alright.
Oh, me just laughed. It's like, are you sure? And I was like, I can't pitch ahead of time, so yeah.
So just so everybody knows, soul food is put soul food in all cards in your hand into your hero's soul.
Yes.
So
Now,
what he
if
did
you
by
have
that
a
turn,
resource-
everything went into his soul.
If you have a resource sink, you do that first, you leave whatever's floating, and then boom, soul food. You get 2 or 3 cards in your soul. Perfect. And you got 1 or 2 floating. Don't just naked soul food.
I'm gonna put 4 cards in my soul.
Like, it would have been better to attack with a hatchet and arsenal soul food or some nonsense than do that.
So keeping on the topic of the big swings, Boltyn.
Raiden? Is that what you're going for?
No, I don't
Or
know what I
Boltyn?
was thinking. Maybe I was thinking Metal Gear Solid. Boltyn, yeah, also has Bolting Blade available to him, and that one
It's a trap.
costs. You think Bolting Blade is a trap?
In most cases, in my Raiden Boltyn, it is just because you generally, it's 4 costs for 7, but it costs 2 less for each time you've charged that turn.
Mm-hmm.
The only turn where you're going to charge more than once is a via the Vanguard turn. Really? Yeah. So if you pull off that combination, great. It feels really good, and it's a hell of a beater. But it's just not consistent enough for me. That being said, it is in my deck for Prison Popper.
So in the Sabres build, it's actually really good because all you're doing is a bunch of little, like you have a couple of big things like the Bolting Blade, you have Via the Vanguard, Valiant Thrust, but a lot of it's little attacks that allow you to like, it's an additional cost to play this charge. As a cost to play this charge. So you
probably run more blues in Saber Bolt, which allows you to play it easier.
And axes. But I still
in here, actually.
I can do 7 damage with my axes on 2 resources and not have to charge. Or I can threaten 7, because again, if they block with attack actions, it's just one of those, like,
I think it's cost effectiveness to output.
Right.
And
how much damage or how many resources, or specifically, how many cards from hand am I committing to do X number of damage?
Most importantly, it gives you 2 resources, it blocks 3.
Actually, that is a pretty good viable thing because there's so many cards. I think in the Monarch set that just blocked 2.
Yes, block 3 is so underrated.
A lot of the non-class specific, so like light warrior, light illusionist, a lot of just the light, just warrior.
Yeah.
Even a bunch of the generics only come in for 2, but there are some majestics in the set that only block 3.
Yeah.
But you never want to block majestic. Like want to talk about feels bad, man. You're like, let me block with Lumina. I'll cry inside.
You literally better be just like, I will survive if I block with Lumina. It's like, you better have the second Lumina in Arsenal to be blocking with Lumina.
Yeah. That is a big feel.
Or 6 cards in your soul and 2 Celestial Cataclysms in hand.
Yeah.
So
there's also some cheeky plays you can do with Bolt because people expect certain things. Like, people expect you to, like, I'm just going to charge this, take flight.
Yeah.
You can run Razors in your deck, and, like, it's the same number of cards. Yes, it's 1 more resource, but it's more damage. And it is just this, like, every Boltyn deck has this little bit of, like, probably 9 to 14 cards that you can just 100% play with. And you can just completely customize. There is not this, like, run this 60 card and have this sideboard. Like, there are some heroes. Boltyn really lets you build your Boltyn.
Oh, you didn't take that.
But yeah, you can build whatever version of that weapon set Boltyn you want because there is a substantial.
I mean, you could build
flavor.
any type of Boltyn. He is probably
just don't build a 1 saber 1 axe Boltyn, please. Like, it'd be hilarious.
I never even considered it. Oh my gosh.
I mean,
want Hatchet of Body and a Saber.
But, like,
horrible.
you can run Courage, and technically you could do a double Lumina turn and your sabers are free, and then pitch blue gives you all 3 axe swings, but
No, Surge still works for axes.
no, it's swords.
It's all.
I never used it for anything other than swords. I just thought it said weapon. Never mind.
Right, and that's why again.
Don't mind me.
Well, what we got into a tangent on earlier is like axes have no love in Flesh and Blood right now, and there's some really good axes.
Yep.
I mean, Ravenous Meat Axe is not a bad weapon, especially for a token.
I can't wait for Valda to get an axe. She's gonna get like
Hatchet of Body and Hatchet of Mind are awesome weapons, but have no love. Like, there's literally not an attack reaction you can use on them.
No
if there's
support.
one thing Flesh and Blood has told us, it's like, dude, 3 sets from now, this one card is gonna be amazing.
Well, I mean, they telegraph
this hero, awesome. Just you wait.
Like, look
Benji,
at
that little boy that gets his face smashed in. God, in like 4 years, he's gonna be OTKing everyone.
He's gonna be CC viable.
Yeah.
This is,
Little boy
what they
was
really mean is
up against a Starvo and be like, "Who are you?"
what they really mean is if he doesn't hit Living Legend by this point, we just gotta make him go some way.
Well, they've telegraphed their intentions pretty thoroughly. Like with that first supplemental set of Crucible of War, they're like, we've been thinking 3 to 4 years out with our card design. They talked about gold and silver tokens 2.5 years before silver was even printed.
Yeah, Crucible came out 2020 was first edition.
Okay, so a little under 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And
So-
yeah,
Still no gold tokens.
no gold tokens, but it's in the concept of the game. So where are we gonna see that?
Came out and they were like, silver, gold tokens.
Everyone was like,
we got a copper right here.
every set since it's been like, well, okay, they're going to include silver. Fine then. Nope, not
No.
Monarch. Nope, not
What's-
Aria. Ever.
What's the Back to the Future meme where it's oh gosh, like your kids are gonna love this one or something like that? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
You've lost me on that one.
I love those movies, but I got nothing.
Back to the Future memes? All right, whatever.
I know what meme we're talking about, but what?
Thank you. Moving on.
We should talk about the equipment. There's a lot of things.
We definitely
His
kind of hit
equipment
on the
dependent.
key ones, but yeah.
His equipment's dependent on the weapon you're gonna run.
Yes. Now, there's some equipment you'll probably never run, like Vestige of Soul.
Halo of Illumination.
Halo used
Halo's
to be
It used to be okay.
Well, it's okay, but it's the fact that you put a card into Soul, but it's not a charge trigger.
It is
No,
not.
but sometimes that's all you need to get that third for Cataclysm.
That's true in that case, but you're still
You know what?
paying one to put a card there.
For
It is the
Commoner,
It's the budget use. In a budget build, you play Halo of Illumination usually.
So
Run Halo.
let's go back to head. So common, Halo of Illumination.
Yeah.
If you're not,
I'd say if you're running Raiden, you can get away with running Helm of Sharp Eye, but most of the time you're probably just gonna run Skullcap.
that's
Just
If
just
you're
the
looking at
go-to.
other common options, you could definitely run Hope's Merchant.
Hope's Merchant is wonderful common.
Still the
Oh, yeah.
sleeper agent in common.
Yep.
Iron Rot, because you run such a tight
Yeah.
margin, the rare time that you're going to run the Rot over the Hide. Because I just don't know if I want to sacrifice a card for 1 extra health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I plan on using it super early and just cycling my hand on that first turn for block. Which I guess you could, but just block the card at that point.
so chest. I think
if you're-
going to be
Chess is one of two.
At the high
Essentially,
level, it's Tunic
Yeah.
or Courage.
I
Is it your-
would say just at high level, I would do Tunic because if you're running Raiden, his swings are already free as is. I mean, I would sideboard it for like those Oldham matchups because maybe you might need to free up Raiden. But Tunic is like free, take flight, charge, blah 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 blah.
yeah, no. In Raiden Boltyn, you 100% run Tunic 99% of the time. It's what enables your big turns.
Yeah, they
Like,
interact.
So pretty much how I play Boltyn is I block until Tunic's ready, and I have a combo card in Arsenal. I'm like, okay, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna hit you hard. But yeah, but in Saber Boltyn, you play Courage just because it enables your combo turn without
It is
much
one
resources.
of the 4 pieces of the combo.
Yeah.
Generic chest.
Um.
In the right format, heart and cross draft.
Yeah.
I would
That's
say
tricky.
blue.
I mean, Deep Blue, we've talked about plenty. It does give you that option of cycling for 3
That's
instead
the
of
problem.
1.
The problem in Boltyn though is it requires a card to get those resources, and he's very card intensive.
Right,
So
that card could be
blue
going
is
to
tricky.
So maybe then blood drop, but you're not playing a lot of actions into attack action.
Well, the whole thing with Blood Drop is if you dealt or received damage, you gain a
I'm
resource.
thinking of the Rune Blade chest from
Anchor, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Rune Blade one that looks like the same lady in my mind for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it would just depend on the, like you said, on the build that you have. I would personally do Heart and Cross Trap.
For me, if
Well,
it's legal, I'm going to run Heart.
If it's legal, yeah.
If it's not, I'll probably run Vest of the First Fist, because to me, that's the closest replacement to Hearten that you're going to get. And I am going to be using attack actions pretty regularly for that charge, for that. I'm not going to charge it, but I'll still slap him with it or whatever. And the way that on-hit triggers work now is you can stack stuff. So you can really, you have to do your reactions before hit triggers, but you can spend stuff on reactions to make that hit worth it, to give those resources into other things like extra swings or extra attacks. I mean, take flight, charge a card. I can then now, if that hits, crack it and play Bolting Blade for nothing.
Yeah.
Which is pretty nutty to potentially threaten 10 damage off of a resource and a card into charge. So, yes, it has to hit, but okay, that's what your arsenal's for. Just leave it in there until it does.
Yeah.
Arms.
Braveforge bracers.
Those are 3
There's
locks
not-
in the attack that you can still use it.
Yeah.
But it
And
doesn't
there's
work on Axis, though.
Actually,
Or does it work on Axis? Is it weapons?
No, it's weapons.
it's weapon.
So it does work.
Maybe I was thinking of it when I was thinking. But anyway, actually, if you're doing hatchets or sabers, Gallantry Gold on Lumina turns is disgusting.
It's better.
Is actually so good. And Gallantry Gold will still
Block
It's a
one
decent-
back.
it blocks 1. So you are still getting
Actually, on
One-
combos, Boltyn, yeah, you actually 100% run Gallantry because it's going to be just incredible.
because if you have a double Lumina turn,
That's 60 damage. Not
That's-
24.
that trust me, that 1 is there. It's
Or
no.
that's 6 extra, 30 damage. Sorry, you're doing 30 damage, getting 6 extra from Gallantry.
Yeah, no, Gallantry's actually really good in combo Boltyn. But
So
in
I
Raiden
would-
Boltyn, you just like to block.
So Raiden Bolton, do Brave Forge because you want to take a little bit more hits. But in combo Bolton, where you're doing those turns where you're trying to attack with hatchets like 4 times, sure, Gallantry Gold is 100% better,
Yeah.
and it's free.
No, it costs 1.
Does it
You have
cost?
to pay 1 for the
It
Gallantry.
does cost 1.
But that's what those energy pots or those handful of blues that you run in the combo deck exist for. Because again, you pay 1 for Gallantry, you Lumina, and then you break your courage, and then boom, you've got 6 sword attacks that each come in for +1 off a get. That's nasty.
So I'm just so used to Braveforge, I always forget Gallantry actually exists, and it's actually really good.
Right, this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would.
destroy Gallantry Gold. Your weapon attacks gain +1 this turn. So even if you break the chain, it's for the turn.
Yep, it's not combat chain, which is why it's amazing.
Yep.
It perfectly fits into the Lumina meta.
Yep.
For Boltyn.
I mean, it released in Monarch.
Yeah.
It was meant for
Axes.
Yeah.
It was meant for axes because at least that gives you +2 off of 1 resource, which is nice.
Yeah.
But +6 off of 1 resource is nutty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would probably say you're going to run Gallantry unless you're running Raid. And then you run Brave Forge in a heartbeat. If you want a less expensive option for Raiden, I mean, they're banning or suspending stubby hammers, which feels weird, but
I actually, when I started with Boltyn, I ran Bracers of Belief. Because
Sure.
where you run like no blues, you're always going to pump something up.
+2 or +1 at least. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I ran bracers just when you want to ensure something gets go again with his
You can
ability.
run Goliath, but there's so few targets for Goliath Gauntlet, and
Goliath is a lot harder because you don't really have a lot of the cost to.
yeah,
or
it's not a brute. Even like okay, bolting blade for 9 would be nasty, but
Yeah, but it's like that costs so much.
right.
So your options are Brave Forge and Gallantry Gold.
For the
And-
most part.
And Galaxy's common, so like you can't get much better than that.
And last but certainly not least, we're gonna have the legs.
I think in Boltyn you generally run Snapdragons just because if for some reason you're not able to pump a card in order to give it go again, or maybe you just not have some. Well, you should have something in Soul after a charge, but if for some reason it doesn't have a go again, you just really need it to have go again to go off. Snapdragon makes it possible because there's not a single attack that's more than one
I
cost in
think-
Boltyn.
I
Except for
think-
Boltyn.
With Everfest included, I think if you're running a 2 one-handed weapon bolt, I do think Valiant Dynamo is more efficient than Snapdragons.
The problem is, I mean,
Not good for
where
raid.
you don't want to draw. Yeah, in Raid and Boltyn you can't play Dynamo. Period.
But I will I think it's the best one, but I'm not saying it's the absolute best. I'm just saying it is so viable, and against certain matchups where you're going up against ninjas or prisms, it's so hard to beat just I can get one block at least, if not every turn, every other turn, and that is very good.
It's definitely
mean-
more viable and constructed. In Blitz, it's not as beneficial.
I think the problem is when Boltyn, if you're gonna run Dynamo, you're gonna be focusing on a lot of different things because it means you're wanting to charge and you're wanting to swing with weapons twice a turn.
Well, that's
You're
what I
kind
was
of
saying earlier. Like, you don't, as Axis Boltyn, you have 2 different options each turn. It's I'm going to use my axes, or I'm going to charge and try and do Boltyn stuff.
Yeah.
I think if
So
you're
it-
playing, oh sorry, go ahead.
It does have a place, again, depending on your weapon set.
yeah, it does.
Really,
Yeah.
it's axes. Like, sabers is okay, but you're really just looking for that combo with sabers. You're not going to be running a ton of outland skirmishes and hit and runs in sabers. You'll run some,
Because I mean, if you take into account like all your take flights to charge, wonderful. But you have Blade Runners now, you have Outland skirmishes now, you have hit and runs, you have Spoils of War, you have Blend Quicksilvers, you've got so many, you've Warrior's Valor, so many cards that can give go again to your one-handed weapons. And I listed 6 different cards that you can run. 6
I mean, Outland Skirmish doesn't give go again though.
sabers that you can run 6 different versions of. That's 36 cards. I mean, obviously you don't need that many, but I think Dynamo Bolt is a viable strategy.
I think that in a mid-range setup, Dynamo would be best. But I think if you're trying to be very aggro with Boltyn, then you need Snapdragons to really make that happen when you need it.
Yeah,
and it's going to depend on your build.
I think it
Two options.
depends on which Boltyn you are going to play.
Like, if you're doing an aggro Boltyn, Snapdragons is the aggro footwear.
Yeah.
Which
If
is
you're doing what Raiden is, yeah. Raiden Boltyn is aggro.
He is aggro.
He's mid-range aggro, but he's still.
And I
aggro.
do think there are a lot of heroes now where you sit down across from a hero and you go, I need to kill them as soon as possible. Snapdragons will do that for you. But if you're going up against a hero, you're like, I have to play sort of this waiting game until I know they've lost steam, and then I put on the force. Dynamos will do that. Because with 3 resources, you can Saber, Blade Runner, Saber, possibly take 1 or 2 cards from their hand, and you now have refreshed an action to block with.
I think the main thing that this video has talked about, I think you can look online at the deck lists and you'll find all 3 of the things we've talked about in somebody's deck list that took first place. A
A lot of variety.
lot of
There is a
variety.
common option for footwear other than Snapdragons that I think Raiden is the best for, and that's refraction bolters.
Yeah.
But that's
Because you
only
could-
a weapon, right?
Yeah, it's only a weapon.
It's
but
when
it
your
blocks,
weapon hits.
it's common, so commoner. It blocks 1 in Battle War.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if you're going for a common build, then yeah, refraction bolters is solid.
Because there's also times as Boltyn that you might get them to dump their hand somewhat early if they're like, I got a garbage hand that's going to block out. And then maybe that go again off Raiden. You don't want to banish the card from Soul because I've got a Cataclysm coming after it.
Well, if they block out, Raiden has to hit to have
Yeah.
Dynamos out.
You mean refraction? But
Refraction
yeah, I
bolt.
know. But I'm saying like you can use just the threat of Dynamos being there, or not Dynamos. Now I'm saying it.
Sorry.
Bolters, refraction
Bolters.
bolters, being there to be like, you gotta block this, or I'm gonna give it go again. Like there is always that psychology, just the game of just what's on your half of the field versus what they.
I think what we've just with Boltyn, there is no 100% proper way to play it and no 100% improper way to play it because he has so many branches. You can make him your own hero. You could possibly build a deck that no one else has built before because I think he has so many different options. And he's probably, I think, one of the funnest heroes if you wanted to get started into the game because warriors are somewhat of the easier classes to learn. His ability is a bit tricky. You might have to remember the keywords of charging and stuff.
Yeah, but it teaches you a lot about timing.
It teaches you a lot about timing,
Yeah.
chains, pitch, just cues on when you should or shouldn't do something. He is a wonderful learning hero for the game itself in all aspects of gameplay, strategy, and deck building.
And I think even the warrior class, if you look at it, is something that I'm going to say by precedence, I was going to say historically, but by precedence in Flesh and Blood, it's something that is very weapon focused and attack reactions are the surprises. You can play Boltyn and the only attack reactions you have give you go again.
Yep.
So there are tons of different ways to manifest that. You can be very surprising with Boltyn because you can have all attack reactions that are going to enhance damage. You can have no attack reactions except go
You
again.
could watch this whole video and go, I don't like any of those ideas. I'm going to build my own Boltyn. And then you do, and it's probably going to be at least viable in a sense.
Unless it's Dawnblade. I'm just kidding. Well,
Do
I
it
mean, I'm not
anyway.
kidding.
Don't build on Boltyn.
Like again, Dawnblade Boltyn has a place. It's just really janky.
It's really low.
If-
It's like someone sits down and they're like, I'm playing Levi, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to side in Dawnblade. Let's see what happens.
Maybe Dawnblade Resplendent. Who knows?
Oh gosh,
It could.
I didn't even consider that. That might be a warrior weapon rather than a Dorinthia weapon. Wow.
As far as we've seen, it is just warrior weapon. It's
Yeah.
not going to be gate kept.
They haven't
Well,
shown the off weapon yet.
Yeah, I
though,
don't think
so.
we've seen anything on it. Unless
They
there's some
haven't
inside.
shown anything about Dawnblade other than calling it Dawnblade Resplendent.
Well, didn't they tease the art a little bit?
Not with Dawnblade.
Nope.
No, they've teased her art
They
and her
teased
specialization.
Her art
Yep.
and well, they've completely leaked the specialization now, but they did when the teaser came out. It was her, and then behind her, kind of was like just the side you saw, Dore, and it's like that's a specialization if I've ever seen one.
+1.
Yeah,
No. It'd be interesting to finally get like a specialization weapon. That would be a first,
yeah.
right?
Point of the day.
Yes.
Go build Boltyn.
I mean,
Try
technically,
not
Luton is a specialization in the sense.
Raiden
that
Bolton's the way to do it for the flavor.
My word.
Well, Luminar's for Prism and Raiden for Boltyn.
Like some Lumina, as in his specialization. Sorry,
So yeah, technically in Monarch, each of the majestic weapons is gate
specific to
because there's
a
only
Shadow Room Blade.
one Shadow Roommate, one Shadow Brood, one yada yada yada.
Not forever.
Not forever.
Yeah.
And Monarch,
Presumably.
you put your gatekeepers with your weapon.
I mean, there's only 2 good ones in that, and it's the light. The light
Yeah.
weapons. The shadow weapons are kind of garbage.
They are
I mean,
garbage.
that's
Actually.
nice for 4 and 1 arcane.
And we will talk about the shadow weapons next
Later.
week and the
Well,
week
one
after.
of them.
Well, probably more than one.
We're
Well,
going to talk about one shadow weapon definitely next week.
yeah. We could probably. Anyway, this has been the 86. We have Ben, Kayla, and I don't know what to call you.
There's literally a character that the mask is based off of. 86.
Yeah, but we
What do you mean? Oh, you look like a negative Deadpool. You look
No, I
like
said
a
negative
Venom.
Spawn. Like,
You look like negative Spawn. You look like Moon Knight. There's literally a character. It drives me. I work in a comic book store. You're like, you look like all these other characters when you literally have a name.
which
I know though. He's Venom. That's who he is.
Anti-Venom? He's
Yeah,
Venom.
that's
He'd
who
be
he is.
Anti-Venom. Is he Anti-Venom?
Yeah, that's what he is.
Well, he doesn't have the red eyes.
Ah.
I'm sorry. Anyway, so we have Anti-Venom here, I guess.
Okay, bye.
Anti-Venom just walked off screen. Now everyone is going to end sadly.
Put it on my cat.
I don't know what's going on
Oh
right now.
man.
He's putting
Not
the
a clue.
mask on Mochi.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Build Boltyn. Tell us how you build Boltyn. And that's it. Have a good one.
You can put this